Hello students, I'm Professor Plinio Monteiro, and in this video I'm going to explain some challenges and trends for global pricing strategies. In this video I'm going to explain the main challenges for pricing that can be defined as the existence and the growth of the gray markets, the rules and laws against dumping, how you can deal with transfer pricing when you need to sell your product from one unit of your business in one part of the world to another one. Also explain the idea of counter trade and how this way of doing international trade is also important for international marketing, and also explain some Eurozone implications for international marketing. And finally, explain how internet will pose additional challenges for international pricing strategies. Gray marketing occurs when someone buys a product in one market and then bring this product to foreign markets by illegal ways. Basically, when they are exporting your product and selling that in the foreign markets, and sold was and people selling this product and they are not authorized to do that. And basically, this can happen given different factors like short supply. For instance, if you don't have enough products in the target market, then people will start buying products in foreign markets to bring to this market where the product is lacking. Also, if you're applying a lot of skimming strategies, for instance, you start in one country with a very high price, targeting very wealthy people, but then in a country very close to that, to this market, then the price is not so high because you are later in the product life cycle of this product. So people can go to this other market where the product is cheaper, and they will buy the product there, and they try to bring this product to the foreign market where the price is very high because of your strategy. And also, if you have a lot of price increases or price escalations, for instance, given the markup of the target market or taxes applied by the government, all these factors can increase the price for the final customer, and then people can try to find your products by the usage of this gray marketing. And what are the risks of gray marketing for a business? First, the reduction of exclusivity. Suppose that you have a contract with a retailer, and this is an exclusivity contract. So this retailer will distribute the product in a foreign market. But if you have other people buying illegally your product and selling in the same marketing, then the retailer will complain about it. You probably the profit margins will be reduced. A lot of people will not buy the product from the retailer and will buy it from illegal negotiators and illegal business. And because of that, this can reduce the exclusivity, creating some problems with this kind of contract and this kind of partnership. Also, this can lead to what we call the free riding. And what is that? Suppose that the retailer perceives that you don't really care about gray marketing, and you don't care about other people selling your product illegally in the country. So what the retailer can do? Probably the retailer will reduce a lot of customer service, a lot of training, a lot of support for customers, and all these can reduce the quality for your final users. And even another problem that can happen is that this will damage not only your relation your relation with the retailer, but also with the customers, because basically the ones that are buying the legal product will not have the correct support, and then they can become unsatisfied with your brand. And also, this can lead a lot of damage to channel relationships. So all of these things can lead to fights in the justice, and the retailers complaining against you, trying to sue you, given the contract's restrictions, and so on. And also, the existence of gray marketing can reduce your pricing strategies for segments. Suppose that you're using some exclusivity channels to distribute the product to reach a given market. And then also you have other sellers delivering your product without the right to do that, then the price that you're aiming to target a given market will be basically destroyed. So basically, it will be very hard to keep your pricing strategy for given segments if you have people selling products illegally for a target market. And finally, all these things can be very harmful to your brand equity. So basically, your reputation and legal liabilities can be a factor that can create a lot of problems, not only in terms of intangible assets like damaging the value of your brand, but also can represent some legal responses. For instance, suppose that you have a problem with your product, but then the customer will say, okay, I bought this product, but then you're going to say, no, but it's not illegal, you don't bought it from the rights retailer. And how can you do that? You can have a lot of problems with customers, even when they are not buying the product in the right channels. The existence of dumping is another important aspect in international marketing. Dumping is basically when there is a sale of an imported product at a lower price than the one that was charged in the domestic market or the country of origin. For instance, you can have a product here in Brazil and I try to export cachaça to Europe. Suppose that I'm planning to reduce my price for exports because I want to enter in the market, I want to use penetration pricing, and so on. And this, depending on the case, can be considered dumping. And this can lead to a lot of problems, especially for big business, because you have a lot of regulations from World Trade Organization and also the General Agreement of Trade and Trade, and will deliver many guidelines to reduce this situation. And you can have a lot of problems, legally speaking, if you apply this kind of approach. And sometimes this can be considered okay, but most of times it's considered one unfair trade practice. It's very common to companies operating in different countries to sell the products from one unit to another unit in different countries. For instance, I can produce parts of my product in Brazil, and then I can transfer these parts for a factory in the United States or Europe. In that case, this is considered a sale because of we have the borders, we have the customs, and the government will try to have some tax on this transference of parts. And this is exactly the example of a transfer pricing. You need to set the price to sell the products from one unit to another unit in different areas in the world. And you can also use this transfer pricing even to deal with currency problems or with cost problems, trying to maximize the income of the entire system, or sometimes this can lead to fights against different units. For instance, a unit in Brazil and a unit in the United States. So the unit in the United States need to buy something from Brazil, but they want to pay a very low price for the parts, for the resources, and of course the Brazilian strategic business unit will try to have a higher price, and this can lead to a conflict. So from time to time, transfer pricing can pose a lot of challenges dealing with international relations, comparing to different units in different regions in the world. In general, we have three approaches for transfer prices. The first one is the market-based, or you can have a cost-based or a negotiated approach for transfer price. So let's explain these different approaches given 5 different criteria. First, if this approach will achieve a goal of congruence. So you have congruence between the seller and the buyer in this relation, the unity that is the strategic business unit that is buying the parts and the strategic business unit that is selling the parts. If this approach will motivate managerial efforts, so this approach will create incentives for managers to deal better with the situation. 3. They're useful for evaluating subunit performance. So this approach is good to analyze what will be the performance of different strategic business units in different countries in the world. Also, let's look to the 4th. If it preserves the subunit autonomy. So some approaches will lead each unit to have their own autonomy, and others will not. This autonomy will not exist. And finally, we can explain this approach given other factors. So let's start with the market-based one. In this case, basically, the transfer price is based on the price on one market objective in the target market. So suppose that you're trying to have a specific price in a foreign market, and then you're going to define the transfer price that will lead both the seller and the buyer to achieve a specific target price in the target market. In that case, the market-based one, it will allow you to achieve this congruence because you need to deal with the seller and the seller and the buyer. They need to agree upon one specific objective, and this specific objective will lead to achieve some congruence. And motivates managerial effort. Of course, they need to manage the goals, to manage the costs, to manage all the shipping and transportation costs. Then because of that, this approach will lead to incentives to managerial efforts and results. And it's useful for evaluating sub-unity performance. The market basic, yes, it's very good for that because each seller and the buyer, they need to agree upon specific objectives and they need to share the results between the seller and the buyer to achieve a common goal. And preserve subunity autonomy. Also, market-based approach will allow you to do that because, especially when you have competitive markets, because each unit will have their degrees of freedom to discuss and define the best way to drive their strategy. And 5, other factors. Sometimes the market will not work perfectly, so you will not have all the information that you need and the right time to make this kind of arrangement between the seller and the buyer inside your business, inside your global company. Let's look to the cost-based one. In this case, basically, you're going to establish one transfer price based on cost. Usually, you're going to establish, usually very centrally, you're going to have a rule inside your company and this will establish the margins for selling and reselling the products in different regions in the world. So, this approach can lead you to achieve some congruence, but not always, especially when you have a lot of divergence between costs and the market prices. And this can lead to some challenges and even conflicts between the seller and the buyer. Motivates managerial effort? Yes, but you need to have a lot of control on costs. If you don't have a lot of control of costs, the budget for these costs, then probably you're not going to have a lot of efforts or way to improve this negotiation using this approach. Useful for evaluating subunit performance. It's not so easy to do that because basically you have price based on the costs. So it's very hard to apply that. You have autonomy in that? No, because basically you have a rule, so there is almost no autonomy in units to negotiate this transaction. And five, this could be useful when you have a lot of costs that can be directly determined to the product. For when you have, for instance, parts of a product, and when the tangible aspect of a product is more important than the intangible aspect, like the branding, then this can be useful to have a cost-based approach for transfer pricing. But if you have a lot of intangible assets like branding, like reputation, and these are important to deliver the value for a final customer, probably the cost-based will not work. And finally, you can have the negotiated. In that case, you have always the negotiation, so you achieve congruence, you have a lot of motivation for managers to negotiate. Also, it can be very useful for analyzing the performance of each unit, but of course, the performance will be directly affected by the capability of each manager to negotiate and their skills on that. And they have a lot of autonomy, and since they are going to negotiate the margins, the costs, and the price. And we can say that in general, we need to have some define some conditions for a given relation. And after some period of time, it's necessary to review this contract, this agreement, because we have differences like the demand, the costs, the currency, and so on. In many parts in the world, it still exists the counter trade. Sometimes you cannot sell your product and receive money or cash according to your sale. Sometimes you need to exchange products and services for the products that you're selling. This is what we call the counter trade. And many factors can give rise to that. For instance, if you have a lot of counter for express rate earnings, and sometimes you need to sell a product for a retailer and receive from them some items in your home country, because this is necessary since they cannot send the money back to the home country. Also, when you have currency controls, and then you can have a lot of taxes for making payments in foreign markets. Also, when you have scarcity of hard currency supply, for instance, if the country there is not enough dollars or euros in the country, probably a lot of companies will try to buy products and give all the products in return in this exchange. Basically because there is not enough money for buying, for paying what companies are buying. And these two last factors usually are related to the decreasing ability of developing countries to finance imports. So usually when countries become they have a lot of debt when they cannot afford the payments of the system in the country. Usually the banks will stop giving money to the government and borrowing money from the government, and this can lead companies in the country to have a lack of money to pay when they buy something. Companies can deal with counter trade in different ways. The most common way is the barter. In this case, it's the simplest and the oldest way of making one exchange without money. Basically, I'm going to sell something to you, I'm going to deliver my product, and then I'm going to accept as a payment some products or items that you have. The counter purchase is basically when I sell something to you, but I need to buy another thing from you from the same value. For instance, I can sell equipment to a country, and then I need to buy some raw materials from that country. One offset is a reciprocal arrangement where the government that are importing something, usually military assets and so on, and they're going to spend a lot of money with hard currency, like dollars or euros, And then they have one memorandum of understanding telling that after this purchase from the country, you need to invest some money or make some investment in the country. It's the great difference here is that you don't have the buy and sell contract from each part. So basically, you have one promise that you're going to make this investment, but usually it's not one contract. You're not like it's not mandatory to do that, but since you want to keep trust with your partner, you're going to keep well with your word, with what you said. And in the compensation trading is another way of doing that. It involves two separated parallel contracts. For instance, suppose I have a factory in Brazil and I need to buy a lot of equipment and resources to start producing. And then I'm going to have a contract with the producer of this plant, this equipment, and they are going to put these equipments to produce something in Brazil. And my payment will be after some period of time. I'm going to give back to the one that sold me this equipment. I'm going to pay them with the outputs of my production. So basically, I'm going to have a contract to receive all the resources that I need to produce something. And after some period of time, I'm going to, usually a long run period, like 10 years, 20 years, I'm going to pay back this the seller with the outputs of the production. Another interesting challenge for international pricing is the existence of the Eurozone. And what are the implications of Eurozone for international pricing strategies? First, you have a pressure for reductions in prices. Since customers can compare prices in different countries and since the costs are more clear for customers, then there is a pressure to reduce the prices in different countries. Also, it's very easy to make transactions within this area. And since you have a reduction in the transaction costs, then you can have greater competition. And all these factors will make it more make more pressures for pricing decisions. Basically, having a pressure for reductions in prices. And also, it will be much easier for new competitors to operate in different regions in the Eurozone. So this will also increase the competition in this area. And also, since you have more interest rate and inflation stability in all of the area, this will create greater difficulties for increases in prices and competing with prices. So basically, since you have that, the competition with prices will be more difficult in this area. And also this will reduce the general cost for doing business. So you have a reduction cost for doing business, reduction cost for transactions, you have greater competition, and of course you have greater price transparency, and customers became more aware of price differences. Internet also poses additional challenges for cross-border pricing. First of all, the asymmetry of information between the customer, the buyer, and the seller will be reduced. So customers will have much more power to negotiate, to search different suppliers, and they can search the prices in different countries before making a decision. And this, in general, will increase the price conscious of customers, given they have access to internet. And also, this will create more challenges for making prices in different channels. Indeed, using different prices in different channels can be part of your strategy. For instance, you can have a different mix per channel. So you have some products in the physical stores, in some stores in the city, and you have different products online, and then it will be more easy for you to establish different prices for online products and physical and products in the physical stores. Or you can have the equivalent mix, and then usually companies will try to use the physical stores as a way to increase customer experience by letting the sellers to explain the products, to explain the details, but then they can go there and buy it online, sometimes even with a discount, and then the physical stores usually change a little bit from being the main channel for sales to become a channel for customer experience. And also, the existence of internet make it more easy for the usage of a dynamic and time-based pricing. So you can use machine learning and revenue management to establish prices for each occasion, for each customer, to make discounts, to sending special discount coupons for some customers, giving the users of some given some marketing objectives of your business. So all these factors also pose additional challenges that can change the way that you deal with pricing in international marketing. And that's it, students. In this video, I presented some challenges for international pricing strategies and how you can deal with them to deliver best practices in the market. So this is it. See you in the next video. Bye.